repurpose it for us as a directive for how to navigate the current societal context? What's the application for us here?
Well, I wish I had the answer to that, right? So yeah, this is a tricky one, because the actual answer is love your neighbor as yourself, right? That's always the right answer. The question is, how do you love your neighbor that's trying to kill you? And this is why Bonhoeffer has surfaced quite a lot lately.
Yeah.
As Bonhoeffer and
who was in the Lutheran tradition, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so Bonhoeffer was a young theologian, like an amazing theologian. The guy had 2 PhDs before he was 25 years old. And he's writing during the rise of Hitler in Germany, in case any of your listeners don't know who Bonhoeffer is. And it's interesting because he was trained theologically under a particular German way of understanding theology. And that German theology actually gave fuel to Hitler. This exceptionalism and how the Aryan nation was very attractive to the German theologians. And it wasn't until Bonhoeffer came to the United States and hung out with the Black Church in New York, Abyssinian Baptist Church, I think was the name of the church, and understood what it means to be a follower of Jesus when you are truly an oppressed people. And he saw the crucified God in reality. And it just opened up his world and his imagination. So he could no longer be silent. He could no longer be complicit to this oppressive regime that was rising. So he was willing to go back to Germany and lead the underground church to the point of being willing to die. And all throughout the Gospel of Luke, Jesus continually tells his disciples, if you follow me, you have to take up your cross. And that wasn't metaphorical. Like, he knew that he would be crucified, and he knew that anyone who followed him would also be crucified, or eliminated by the empire in one way or another. And so whenever you speak the countercultural gospel of Jesus, that is love for all people, domination systems can't tolerate that. And they will always seek to silence you. And sometimes silencing you is canceling you on social media. Sometimes it is freezing you out of an organization. And then in its radical extreme, it's actual execution.
Yeah. And that's interesting because, one of the things I'm working on a book that I'm writing now called From the Garden to the Cross. I've been working on it for about 4 years. And how it relates to that is, in many ways, I feel like the church has just fallen all over itself. It's kind of succumbing to many of the theological dynamics you described there, where okay, that maybe this end times theology, in modern American Christianity just seems like, okay, I think we got that one pretty wrong, and it really messed us up. And so I was really inspired. One of the things that really kind of disillusioned me with the current church in its modern manifestation in America, in many ways, is the contrast to the early church in ancient Rome. And I'm thinking, wow, look at these Christians, they I was reading one book where they had such faith that they could literally be willing to do these things, step out, love their neighbor, be vulnerable to get the plague and die. And they had such faith that they knew their neighbor would take care of their kids if that happened. Right. So they had such a level of faith and a level of selflessness that just kind of puts us to shame. And then we become more and more selfish. It created this very stark contrast. And that's one of the origins of my book, is kind of wrestling through that myself. And I think, we're the boiling frogs in a way, it seems like.
Yeah. I think you froze up there for a second.
No, no, I just stopped.
Oh, the
Yeah,
boiling frog. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. When you use that metaphor of the boiling frog, it activates a lot of old messages from when I was a kid. You know,
Oh,
very
yeah.
fundamentalist background. Uh,
Okay. What was that?
because I was raised on a theological tradition that was very, very, very skeptical of American society and secularism, and very afraid of what they would call liberalism or Protestant liberal theology. And so the fundamentalists who were saying, who were actually behaving like Pharisees, like, here are the boundaries, like, here are the 12 fundamentals, here are the marks of what it means to be a true disciple of Jesus. And they're very clearly delineated. And if you step outside of that and you like open yourself up to psychology or uh, the possibility that Darwinian understanding of evolution could be a way God created the universe, like, you're selling out into the secular world, and or listening to secular music, all that kind of stuff. Like, the, every little bit that you give in to that side is like the slow boiling of the frog. And
Yeah,
so I was raised in a childhood culture that created a great amount of fear of the outside world. Um, and so that's just what was activated for
yeah,
me. And so
yeah,
that's why I call myself, I'm among many who grew up in that culture and consider myself a post-evangelical. I'm not an anti-evangelical. I'm so grateful for so much of how I was raised,
yeah.
and yet so much of it became really problematic, like a
Hmm.
very narrow view of atonement, a very narrow understanding of the gospel, and a narrow understanding of the church. That as soon as you start challenging the boundaries, you become dangerous,
Yeah,
and that's when you kind of get exited out of that world.
yeah. And I think to kind of take what you're describing and kind of flip it, I think what happened is they were so afraid of the secularization, but they had superficial descriptions that they were able to preserve the superficial descriptions, and without realizing it, they became secular in what actually mattered. And so instead of loving your neighbor as yourself, they they essentially got rid of that in practice, but they kept sort of some of those rules. So it looked like they were Christian, or they looks like they are Christian when they're actually secular. They just have Christian language or a Christian veneer. Would you agree with that or disagree?
Yeah, I think so. I like the way you put it. I have to think about how they became secular. I would agree that they lost the understanding of what it means to love your neighbor. Um, I would, yeah. So for me, the way I've always framed it and tried to understand it is, um, like that substance dualism is what was part of the problem, uh, because of that secular sacred divide, and also the spiritual physical divide. All that mattered was your spiritual relationship with God, that ultimately is just about the afterlife. So that it became easy to like dismiss the physical world, dismiss this current age as the world, like everything about this universe is the world. And so it's okay if it all goes to hell, right? Because we're just going to go to heaven. If you
Mm-hmm.
believe the right things, you're going to go to heaven. You're going to escape all of the destruction. And you mentioned end time stuff earlier. So all of that. So I guess yeah, it is an interesting inversion, because when you separate out love of God from love of neighbor, and you see them as two separate things, and loving God is all you do, but loving God is up here apart from the physical world, then you do actually become secular in the sense that you're not connected to the actual reality that we live in. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting. I've never heard it framed exactly that way, but I like it.
yeah. I think it really ties into the tribalism. I think as well. My tribe matters and yours doesn't. I'm going to
Right.
dehumanize your tribe, and I'm going to
Yep. Yep.
defend my tribe. And what Jesus is saying is like, and like you said earlier, like I love all of you, and all of our lives matter. And so it kind of goes back to your point of like, how do you love your neighbor when they're trying to kill you? Well, Jesus says to die for them, like,
Yeah. And
so
forgive them.
something's, and forgive them.
Yeah.
Like,
Which
something's wrong
nobody
here.
wants.
Like we're,
Yeah. Nobody wants to
yeah.
do that.
And I don't want to do that,
I
but
don't, you know,
there's something there that I have to wrestle with. And I guess, um, do I want to wrestle with it? I think is a big question. Like, do I want to actually reconcile that, or do I want to sort of stick, kind of
yeah.
not even consider it? That's
So, yeah. So what did Jesus mean when he said, if you want to gain your life, you must lose it?
mm-hmm.
Was that like, was he talking about if you want to go to heaven when you die, you just die? I, maybe, I don't think so though. I think he's talking about what we're talking about is the idea of the only way to actually win is to lose the game
choosing
that's
to
being
lose.
played, because it's the game that's being played of power, zero sum. That's the problem.